Good evening, Unity on the Bay. Happy Monday night to you. It was such an incredibly beautiful day out there today. Like the humidity was, I think, unseasonably low, and the temperature was exquisite, and we had a beautiful South Florida day today. I hope you have had a beautiful Monday wherever you are and whatever you're doing. We're just going to give a few moments here for people to join us. And as you join us, or if you're already here, please let me know. Hey, Jason Weeks. Always on time with self-discovery. Glad you're here, my friend. If you are with us tonight, please let me know in the chat and keep letting me know, because this is an interactive program. And if my voice doesn't pull through, I may need you to do the conversing here. No, it's fine. But it is interactive. So as we move through the material tonight, if you have any questions, comments, perspectives that you want to share, I have found the book that we're working with right now, we have been now for 5 weeks, and we're going to be at it for another couple of weeks, is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I have found that it definitely, how would I put this? It definitely opens the door that allows me to get out of the box of my own thinking, which for the most part I appreciate, but not always and completely. Let's see who's here. Jason, a fan. I know, I'm a fan of yours too, Jason. Nancy, how are you, my dear? Glad you're here. It's nice to have you back. Cherry, thank you for being here. Love the heart. Crystal, Niyama, good evening. Yes. All right. Let's move ahead here a bit. We'll still have some other people joining us. And do let me know if you're here. Please put a note in the chat. As we begin to move into our 5th week of studying The Untethered Soul. Great book by Michael Singer. So great, in fact, that it's really become a contemporary spiritual classic. And you'll know why if you start moving through it. Before we get into tonight's material, if there's anything in particular that you would like to comment on regarding this book in general, I welcome your comments. I welcome your observations, your reactions. As I said, it is a different way. There's a few different twists in terms of looking at material that can prompt us in our spiritual journey. I'm interested to know what you think about The Untethered Soul. And welcome again to Shelf Discovery. So glad you're here. It's called Shelf Discovery because every Monday evening at 6 p.m. we come together and browse through the pages of an interesting spiritual text, most of which, to this point, all of which have come from the bookshelf behind me in the other room. They're my favorites. And Untethered Soul has been on that list of favorites for over 15 years now. And has been a great gift. I've taught this book, and interestingly, as is always the case, it seems, I'm finding a lot of material in there that I don't remember seeing before. It's those book gnomes, you know, the little critters that come into your home in the middle of the night and put new words into old books that you've read 3 or 4 times. I think it's true that you really cannot receive a message until you're ready to receive it, even if it's blatantly put forth in the words on a page of a book. You will simply not see it because we can't see things that are outside of our ability to see or to comprehend. And if you have any great spiritual books that you've been through more than once or twice, you know what I'm talking about. You read them once, you think you've got the content, you read it again, and you find out there were pockets and pieces that you missed the first time around. But thanks for being here. As I said, we're here on Facebook Live, YouTube, every week, Monday night. Hi, Judy. Queen Mother, oh my goodness. I haven't seen you in so long, but I'm so glad you're here with us tonight. Sending you lots of loving thoughts. Francis, thanks for being here. Glad to have you. Let's get rolling into tonight's material. And if you are participating in Sunday mornings at Unity on the Bay, some of this material is repetitive, but it's that way for a reason, because I think it's valuable. And I think that trying to really move into it in 20 minutes on a Sunday morning doesn't do it justice. So some of what I'll share tonight will be echoes from yesterday's talk at Unity on the Bay, and some of it will be new. And then there's, of course, whatever you are providing to add spice to the conversation. Replying to Jason Weeks, you're very astute to get messages from the book gnomes. Relax and release difficult thoughts. Yes, Judy, relax and release difficult thoughts or feelings. Absolutely. So let's take a look at one of the basic premises of The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. He says that there's a layer of deep-seated pain at the core of our heart. Now, that is not the most inspirational message to be heard, and that's why were we not studying this book, it's not something I probably would throw into your face right away. But he says the pain is so uncomfortable, it's so challenging, it's so destructive to the individual self that our entire life is spent trying to avoid it. And it's interesting, when we get into some of these ideas, like the idea of a layer of pain deep-seated at the core of our heart, we find these themes in other spiritual writers as well. And one of the writers that I immediately was prompted to explore with this concept was Eckhart Tolle. Some of you are aware of his idea of the pain body. Another one that I was thinking of that refers to it is Don Miguel Ruiz. And I couldn't remember which book it was in. I thought it was Four Agreements, but I couldn't find it in there. So I'm thinking maybe it was Mastery of Love. But it's where he talks about how we have a wounded self. And it's been wounded because of various activities, interactions, engagements that we've had with other people, with life. And because the pain that naturally comes forth from life experience is so intense, it frightens us. We're afraid of pain. And so we accumulate what Tolle calls the pain body, which for the most part is dormant in our lives, but it gets triggered the moment that somebody says something to us that causes the pain body to react almost like sporadically or out of the blue, but it's not out of the blue. It's always there. It's the accumulation. It's a growing accumulation of unresolved pain from the past. And it's only there because we haven't, according to Singer and according to Tolle, we haven't cleanly allowed painful experiences to move into our lives and through us and then away from us. In other words, everything has come to pass. This too shall pass. Everything in the phenomenal world, which is everything that we perceive with our five senses, is going to pass. Everything comes and everything goes, except for the essence of our being. And what we've done, for better or worse, and why ever in the world we did it, I'm not sure, but we have given command of our lives to our minds rather than to our essential being. Our essential being, which is tapped in with infinite intelligence and creativity, therefore is a very good, valid resource for us. The mind, on the other hand, is kind of an inventor. And what the mind does, according to Singer, is that it builds a mental construct. He says your entire personality is built upon ways of being, thinking, acting, and believing that were developed to avoid this pain, this internal pain. Jason, in Sufism, they believe our connection to the divine is through the heart. They see the heart as a flower with 10,000 petals. That's a really beautiful illustration. When we endure pain, Jason says, we put a veil on each of these petals as we become adults. As we become adults, we have so many veils on the heart that we lose connection to the divine. Well said, Jason. And that's another example of how this theme occurs in Sufism as it does in many different spiritual persuasions and influences. Petals, I got that. Oh, petals, yeah. Thanks for the clarification, Jason. Maybe the heart has petals too. Maybe we could found a new way of religious thinking based on the petals of the heart. But petals is great, petals. So what happens is then we give the mind the assignment of constructing this fortress or like a guard that's built around us. I'm cracking up too, Jason. We give our mind this impossible assignment of creating a mental construct that will ensure that we don't have to face anything painful, anything difficult, anything frightening. And of course, that's sheltering us from life, and it's closing us off from being able to live life fully, because we get so preoccupied with not only constructing this mental construct, but also for maintaining it and for defending it. And Lord knows we will defend it, because we think we have found the proper way, the proper mental construct through which to interpret all the activities and individuals in our life. And that's simply not possible. So we're trying to hold up like a fortress, like a wall, and that takes a lot of energy. It's like the significance of being authentic, being our real self, as opposed to being something that's out of integrity with what's really valuable and important to us. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to hold up that facade, and that's what it is. It's a facade. And ultimately, it's not a necessary facade, but we do it. One of the examples, and I didn't go into this yesterday for time's sake, but I'll just read to you. This is from The Untethered Soul. And I bet you'll relate to this. Have you ever built your whole world on a model of life predicated by another person's behavior? Anybody relate to that? Built your whole world on a model of life predicated by another person's behavior or the permanence of a relationship? If so, have you ever had that foundation pulled out from under you? Somebody leaves you, somebody dies, something goes wrong, something shakes your model to the core. I'm not sure how many of you have been on the planet for how long, but whether or not this is involving a relationship, the issue here, I think, is when we have built our foundation on anything outside of us, rather than building our foundation on what in unity we would call divine attributes within us. This is a huge recognition that we're not here to have our needs fulfilled or to have our agendas completed by people and situations, organizations, political parties outside of us. We're here to find everything we need within us. And when we do that, our lives move on kind of a divine spectrum in positive and healthy and helpful ways. When we don't, we begin the business of constructing this model. I've done it. I can't believe that some of you, have you ever done this? Let me know. Check in with the chat. Let me know if you've ever built a model that depended, at least to a large degree, if not completely, on somebody or something outside of you. And then you have that. Jason says he has done that. Yeah. And then you have that model pulled out from under you because the person doesn't cooperate with your mental construct or your agenda. And Crystal's also commenting here on that. Hi, David. Glad you're here. Happy Monday night. So this is the thing. We build these constructs, but then in order to protect ourselves from the fear of the pain that is surrounding our hearts, we have to start ensuring that our mental model or construct is held up. Pam is admitted. We have true confessions here tonight. We've all done this, right? And Michael goes on to say, when this happens, your entire view of who you believe you are, including your relationship to everyone and everything around you, begins to fall apart. I've been there. It is absolutely the most horrible experience I've ever had in my life. Oddly, I will tell you, I would have it again, just to be able to be who I am today. So I was able to see ultimately how the disintegration of the mental construct or model that I had created was actually beneficial to me, because it was just a model. It was just a facade. Yes, my husband, Judy says, and then he died. You know, I'm sorry, Judy, for that situation and for whatever pain or grief it may have caused in your life. But I'll tell you, if you can follow some of the recommendations, and let's just take a quick look at these from Singer in the book, and these are from other resources as well. But what it basically says is that if you're in that moment where the construct is collapsing and you're desperately trying to uphold it, the key is to seek not to avoid the pain of it. And I know sometimes this pain can seem so overwhelming that we'll just run in terror from it. But what Singer is telling us is it's possible to look the fear of our pain directly face to face. And instead of presuming it to be a punishment for not living the life we should have lived, or presuming it to be something that's come into our world to do us in or to bring us down, we can redefine how we are perceiving pain in our life. And we can see it instead as a threshold. In fact, a necessary threshold that moves us more out of our mental construct, our mind model for the world, into living our lives from a space of pure being. Jason says, it's interesting because I think our inner world informs our outer world, but then our outer world can inform our inner world. It's like a feedback loop sometimes. It really is, isn't it? It goes both ways, because sometimes the reflections that we see, and I think the spectrum of our day-to-day life is a reflection. The reflections that we see are always speaking to us, and not necessarily in the ways that we are understanding or translating. They're always, I believe, in the divine scheme of things, giving us opportunities to define, going back to Don Miguel Ruiz's model of the wounded being, to define or to identify internal wounds within us that are ready to be healed, that we're ready to heal. But we don't recognize that. We don't realize that pain is an invitation to move our lives in this way. And so we run from it, as opposed to just facing it, looking it directly in the eye, and from the very best of our ability, not fearing it, but just walking slowly, one step at a time, toward it. Because it is possible to reinterpret pain from something to avoid, something that is potentially damaging to us, to a wonderful God-given opportunity for us to look at something inside of ourselves that we have not been willing to look at, and to rebuild our foundation on that which is truly eternal and truly lasting, as opposed to the many, many phenomenal experiences and activities that come and go constantly, that are not dependable, and that are not it's like building your house on sand. So if you're in a situation tonight where you feel like your mental construct is collapsing, do your best to try to maintain some objectivity and try to reinterpret it in a different way. Can you give us a real life example of this? Thank you, Crystal. Well, a lot of you have heard this a million times before, and I welcome your examples as well. For me, the biggest collapse of this sort was back in 1991, when I discovered that my marriage was ending and my family was, from my interpretation at that point, falling apart, disintegrating. It was never going to be again. It turned out not to be that way. I have a wonderful, loving family today still, even though the marriage ended, and we continue to live in separate cities and separate places. But we have discovered that the heart that we shared so many years ago is still very much intact. Now, when this happened for me, and I'll say that part of this was coming from my Unity background, which was a recipe that said, if you do it right, if you play the game right, you will not have any difficult experiences. If you're thinking the right thoughts, your life is always going to be, and you're feeling the right feelings, your life is always going to be a walk in the park, a bed of roses. And I really believed that. Having grown up in Unity, I thought, if I've got the thought train down here correctly, my life is going to unfold accordingly, which it had done throughout the years of my existence, until this very moment when a primary pillar of the foundation of my mental construct was pulled out. And the only word that I can use from my own experience and from the experiences that others have shared with me, it's just devastating. And you think it's the end of the world. He goes on to say here, if I can find it, that, where'd that go? Oh, let's see. When this happens, your entire view of who you believe you are, including your relationship to everyone and everything around you, begins to fall apart. You panic and you do everything you can to hold it together. You beg, fight, struggle to keep your world from collapsing. So there's your personal example, Crystal. But the reality is I was not able to keep it from collapsing. It collapsed and it collapsed and it collapsed for a long period of time. So I did not realize that it was possible to look at the fear that I had and the pain that I was experiencing in a different way, to allow myself to really feel it, first of all, because who really wants to feel pain? And yet, in this redefinition of pain as a threshold into a deeper life experience, a more rewarding life experience, you can not only feel it, you can not only face it, but without resistance, you can really allow it to flow through you and from you and away from you. And then you can actually get to a place where you thank the pain. Can you believe it? You can thank the pain. Jason, would you say we are so scared of situations like this because we fear death so much, like our minds see it as a possible step toward? Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Jason. They say that's the ultimate fear of all of us is death. And it's because we have, I think anyway, that it's because we've given this mental model that we've created, we've given it our identity. We believe that we are that model. So when it's threatened by anybody or anything outside of us, we fear for our lives. It sounds a little intense, but I think it's true. We're terribly afraid that the end of the mental construct will be the end of our human existence. And we're also afraid that the end of our human existence is the end of us. Until we come across, if we're fortunate, another teaching such as unity, which tells us that our life is eternal and there's no reason to fret that we also in flesh and blood are phenomenal in nature. So we also come and we go. That is the self that we have come to identify ourselves to be. But there is, as we know in unity, a more permanent and lasting self. And this is the whole thrust of what Singer's trying to tell us here, is that if you'll just not be afraid of the pain, muster up. And friends, you have everything you need inside of you. We all do, to be able to face any level of pain, any fear that we might have. We don't believe that. We've talked ourselves out of it, but it's true nonetheless. So you have what you need in order to face this pain and to emerge from the other side of it. And interestingly, as I continued reading Untethered Soul this morning, he talks about that it's not until we actually face the reality of our death that we're able to fully appreciate life. And then we realize that we, in this form, as human beings, we're not here forever. It gives us the opportunity, by not fearing death, but facing death, to bring a much greater level of value to each and every moment of our lives. When we start to realize, I woke up this morning. I'm having a day right now. I don't know what the next moment's going to hold. I don't know what's going to happen when I put my head on that pillow tonight. But what I do know is that I'm here right now, and it's an incredibly exquisite experience, especially when I'm not taking the contents of the present moment and weighing it against some idea or ideal as to how I think things ought to be, how I think I should be, how life should be, how you should be. Thank you, Nancy. She says, when I got divorced, I took a class at Unity that reminded me to pray for what I wanted in the present tense, as if it had already happened. Amen. I visualized and prayed and journaled fervently every night for hours, and then met my current husband, my greatest manifestation. How beautiful is that, Nancy? And I really do appreciate the power of your own personal testimony there. And I don't question that you had to have faced a lot of fears and doubts and worries and concerns along that journey. Maybe not, but most of us do. And I'm so grateful that you're able to tell us that when we can hold to the possibilities we then can be about the business of altering what we're identifying with, going from the mental construct to the true essence of our being as divine creation, and bring about manifestations that blow us away and that knock us off our feet. So I hope your current husband, Nancy, knocks you off your feet. So, and I'll just summarize it by saying, if it's true, and I touched on this yesterday, if it's true that there's only one presence, one power, one God, God is absolute good, everywhere present. If that's true, then that means that that sacred element must be in every life experience, regardless of how we might judge it. So we can look at the painful experiences in our lives that we've gone through, or that we're walking through right now, or that we fear we may walk through in the future, and know that the presence of God, the seed of God, is in everything. If we can then begin to disarm ourselves a bit and not be so paranoid of pain, we can start to realize even the painful experiences in our lives are taking us forward in our journey. And that if you're encountering a painful situation in your life, don't become a metaphysical malpracticer, as they call it, and beat yourself up. That's what I did a lot of back in 1991. How did I do this? Why did I do this? What was I thinking? As opposed to just realizing you've created another opportunity for yourself to prove that you are more than a mental construct, that your life is more than a mental model that's been made up out of your humanity, that you're part of something so much greater and so much grander than you can possibly imagine. Nancy says, yes, you are right. It was tough. It was a tough time, but I persisted and believed that Christ would help. Amen. And remember, Christ is not outside of any of us, my friends. Christ is that divine pattern that can lead our lives so much more effectively than any assignment we may give our minds to protect us and to secure us. Pam, I love that saying, such a better way to look at everything. Well, there you go, my friends. We just changed the world tonight. Thank you, Michael Singer. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of my Monday evening. I love you all from the bottom of my heart and back again, and hope to see you next week. Actually, Jason's going to be back with you next week, and I so appreciate that, Jason. I think you're the perfect person to step in for me when I'm stepping away, which I will be doing next Monday for just that one day, that one evening. But do plan to be with us here on Shelf Discovery. And by the way, if you enjoy this program, check the description, because there's a way you can support it by supporting Unity on the Bay, so that we can keep these programs out, moving in hopefully positive ways in your life, making a better difference in the world. Have a wonderful evening. Many blessings to all of you. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Crystal. Love you all. Have a great night, and God bless you.